Howdy, howdy, howdy. My name is Chris McKay. You may know me from such non-films as Bored Music Geek Radio, or maybe Bored Music Geek Records. Maybe you know me from all of my days on the stage in various bands that some people cared about, and that I cared about and missed doing. But I'm here right now because I feel challenged. I haven't actually been challenged, but I feel challenged. And what I feel challenged to do is there's a thing called Vinyl Tag 2025. I think that's what it's called. I'm not down with proper terminology or anything else, but the other half of the Bored Music Geek Radio staff did this. So I feel like I should do it to tell the other side of the Bored Music Geek story. So we're going to do that. And basically the premise is some other vinyl geek somewhere in Vinyl Geekdom puts out a list of 20 questions to ask fellow vinyl geeks. Fellow vinyl geeks then post them, and it seems like people watch them. For me, I don't really watch videos about people talking about music, which may be ironic, but hey, that's the way life works. But I've been told I should be doing this, and so I'm doing it, and let's get right to it. But you know, I understand if you don't want to listen to me talk and you'd rather be listening to music, because that's the way I usually roll. But I'm trying this. I'm challenged without being challenged, and I feel encouraged, and of course I want to share my musical geekism with you. The first question is, what was your best purchase of 2024 in new or old vinyl? And since I can't possibly just answer one or the other, I'm going to go with both. Best vinyl purchase, I believe, this year, Jordy Greep. The album is called The New Sound. The boy is a madman, 25 years old, crazy. Some of you may know him from Black Midi. This album is... I'm worried about the boy. I'm worried about Jordy Greep, if he can survive the intensity of his first solo record. And it's some weird combination of 80s King Crimson, disciplinary King Crimson, and Brazilian music, and jazz, a little bit of Steely Dan, some very intense British literary mannerisms, crazy lyrics. Just a lot going on here. Oh, and I forgot, the secret ingredient, in my opinion, is a bit of Scott Walker to go along with it. And if you're lucky, try to find the vinyl or grab the single that comes with it in rarer form. The single is called I Love My Family on side 1 and Aching Knees on side 2. Aching Knees is great, but I Love My Family is... Seriously, if Scott Walker circa 1970 was still somehow in existence, it would be Jordy Greep doing I Love My Family. So if you like that kind of stuff, get it. Now, as far as new or old best purchases in 2024 on vinyl, for me, that was the best vinyl purchase of new music. Crack the Sky is my best older album purchase. I don't know how the hell Crack the Sky had gotten past me from... They've been around for basically my entire friggin' life, and somehow none of my vinyl friends turned me on to them. I don't even remember how I stumbled... Oh, I stumbled across them on Bored Music Geek Radio because Wildman Steve, who does a prog hour every Thursday night at 8 Eastern, played a Crack the Sky song. I heard it, dug in, and was like, holy shit, how are these guys not gods? And it comes down to the industry and bad label management, etc., etc. But hold on, Surf City, Sea Epic, She's a Dancer, Robots for Ronnie, Ice, all on the same friggin' first album, which is amazing. And it's coming up on its 50th anniversary. If you don't know Crack the Sky and you like, you know, hard rocking prog, you like melodies, you like harmonies, you like power pop, you like incredible musicianship, incredible songs, wry lyrics, funny as hell, deep stuff, you need to get some Crack the Sky. All right. 50 years later, what is your favorite album from 1974? That is question 2, and that was tough for me, but I had to go with Diamond Dogs by David Bowie. There's a lot of music that influenced me from 1974 But this is probably my overall favorite. And in fact, David Bowie is probably my favorite artist of all time. Probably. Note the asterisk. But Diamond Dogs would almost definitely be my favorite Bowie album if not for the song Rock and Roll With Me that starts side 2, and in my opinion ruins this album. If it had the alternate version of Candidate to start side 2, this would be a truly perfect album. And in my opinion, still, anything that has Sweet Thing, the Candidate little thing, and Sweet Thing Reprise, it's got Rebel Rebel, it's got Diamond Dogs, it's got We Are the Dead, it's got 1984, it's got Big Brother. Fantastic album, hugely influential to me on multiple levels. Mike Garson leading the band, leading the charge musically, and he's my favorite instrumentalist of all time, the piano player, keyboard player. Great album, 1974. That's my choice. Now, the next question, number 3, an album that defines a genre. Lots of places to go here. I thought about pulling out some James Brown, but, for defining funk, but I went this way. And I couldn't decide again. So you're going to get them both quick. Prog, there was proggish music. And then came King Crimson's In the Court of the Crimson King in 1969. And Prague became Prague. And just a masterpiece of an album, in my opinion. Just flat out amazing. And from this point, there was prog, progressive as people knew it, especially throughout the 70s, and metal, same basic time, 69, early 70, Black Sabbath, defining heavy metal, even though they themselves, preferred not to be necessarily tagged as heavy metal. The title song, come on, Black Sabbath, Jesus Christ, and you get the Wizard on here, you got Behind the Wall of Sleep, you got NIB, you got, great record, and it's not even their best. You know the cliche, first 5 Black Sabbath albums, those are gospel. All right, best band from your home country. Yeah, this is tough, being an American. I thought of the Isley Brothers, a band that was around, from the 50s into the 21st century having hits, but I didn't go with them. And I didn't go with them not on a technicality, but I put some thought into this one, and my answer is Prince and the Revolution. Not Prince. Prince is a different artist from Prince and the Revolution. Prince and the Revolution specifically, for me, the version with Wendy Melvoin and Lisa Coleman together in the band with Wendy and Lisa, that run from 1983 to 1986, just those few albums, Purple Rain, right here, perfect record. Purple Rain, Around the World in a Day, Parade, magnificent work for that time, and so many B-sides that were just fantastic. 17 Days, Erotic City, She's Always in My Hair, fantastic stuff. And for me, there's nothing like these records that exist outside of them. They have so many influences that are in this music, and none of them were the same as their influences. They transmuted it into something beautiful, magical, and perfect, in my opinion. Okay, an artist you miss dearly. This one's going to be obvious for some of you. I could have gone anywhere with this too, but I got to go with John Lennon. There he is, as a little young man there. This album in specific changed my understanding of reality when I first heard it when I was, I think, 11. I might have been 10 still. Having some family troubles and hearing Mother and this album changed me, and the Beatles changed me. But Lennon, I can only wonder where he would be today and what he would be like, but I know he would put out some garbage and some stupid stuff between 1990 and 2024. But he would have also put out some of the greatest stuff that we've ever heard in one form or another, in my biased opinion. And I admit that. So I miss what we could have had and should have had, because I know a lot of the songs that he was working on that would have been put out and fully completed, and they were beautiful. Best live album in your collection. Again, tough for me. There's a lot of places I could have gone, but I got to go back to the start. My gateway drug into rock and roll, and I say it unapologetically, was Kiss. Being from my time and place in the early 70s, the mid 70s in South Carolina, they were everywhere. I didn't have any older siblings to turn me on to anything. A friend, Michael Hallman, came to school one day with the 45 of Calling Dr. Love. I borrowed it. My first record I bought was the album that song comes from, Rock and Roll Over, and then I went back. My third album that I got, I got Rock and Roll Over, Destroyer, Dress to Kill, and then I finally found Alive. And this really made me want to perform live and be a musician on stage. And I could have also gone with Wings Over America by Paul McCartney and Wings, because the movie of that rock show made me want to be a performer. But this is the album that first made me start thinking that music was beyond the little people on the radio box making sounds. And that was something extra special. I got to evict a cat right now, so excuse me for a second. All right, not evicting her. She's a good girl. She's just knocking stuff over. So anyway, and there's no editing here because that's not what we do on Bored Music Geek. Anything. All right. Your partner just dumped you. What album are you putting on? I don't know how to say this and not sound weird, but I've never had that experience really, so I can't answer that fully. But I got to think about it. How about we just go with the most obvious breakup album ever? Because it's not something I just personally relate to, like I'm guessing most people do. We'll just go with Rumors by Fleetwood Mac, to hear people bitching about each other and still loving each other, and bitching even more that they love each other and they hate each other so much because they love each other, with a little less cocaine on the turntable than in the actual recording studio, I feel sure, depending on your household, of course. Best sounding drums on an album is number 8. I said I wasn't going to keep doing this, but I have to if I'm being honest with these questions. Best sounding drum sound to me, honestly, it's this. It's Creatures in the Night, also by Kiss. Note, this version has Vinnie Vincent on it. I ain't saying it's an official release, but I'm saying it's the one with the right band members on it. So Creatures in the Night, the drums on this are huge, and they made the songs a bit more sparse musically to make room for the drums, but it changed everything. And I remember hearing, saying some friends that were like, well, we don't listen to Kiss, because they were thinking about Unmasked. They hadn't even heard The Elder. They were like, we listen to heavy stuff now, like Van Halen, so we don't want to hear any Kiss. And I was like, you really probably need to hear Creatures in the Night if you think that Van Halen is heavy by comparison. I mean, Big Bad Bill is Sweet William Now is on the current Van Halen album, and a cover of Pretty Woman, and you think that's heavier than War Machine or Creatures in the Night, or, prejudice is a bitch. Anyway, fantastic. If you're a drummer and you haven't heard Creatures in the Night, listen to the album. Fantastic. Drum-wise. Favorite artist who is a member of 2 or more bands. Again, I could have gone so many directions with this. And this is the direction I chose. Tom Petty. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, obviously one of the greatest American rock and roll bands, and easily could have been my choice for Best American Rock and Roll Band. How about his time in the Traveling Wilburys? There's your second band right there. Great stuff on this first record, not as great stuff on the second record. But let's go a little bit further. How about we do some Mudcrutch? Mudcrutch, Tom's first band he came back with, and his last album released in his lifetime was the second Mudcrutch album, and man, Crystal River, fantastic. I could have gone the Wilburys route. We could have done Jeff Lynne, Traveling Wilburys and Electric Light Orchestra. We could have done George Harrison, Traveling Wilburys and the Beatles. Anyway, I chose Tom Petty. Now, what are we up to here? Beatles or Stones? What a bullshit question, because there is no Beatles or Stones. It's always Beatles and Stones. But the Beatles changed my life more than any other band, and my way of thinking, my reality when I discovered them, and when they discovered me. Far later than anybody else, because again, I didn't have older siblings. I kind of knew some stuff from the radio, and that was it. And when I heard Strawberry Fields Forever for the first time, every light went on, and I heard Transmissions from My Home Planet, and I was never the same. So, the album from that time period, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I'm just going with Beatles because Beatles is the only truly correct answer to that question, in my opinion, because without Beatles, there really would have been no Stones either, ultimately. At least not as we knew them. All right, what do we got next? You found a bag of weed. What are you going to listen to? Well, after I listen to the sound of me taking that bag and walking all the way to the outside dumpster to throw it away because I don't want to smell that shit, I would think about what I would listen to if I were to partake. And if I were, I would want to put on Aphrodite's Child's 666, which is a concept album based on the Book of Revelation, written by Greeks, including Vangelis, who went on to do Chariots of Fire and stuff when he got a lot more normie. This album is just a complete mind fuck. And listen to All the Seats Were Occupied, and you don't need weed or anything else to go on a trip. Yeah, fantastic, deeper album on the Vertigo record label, which had so much great music. All right, an album from the 1980s that you still listen to. If I listen to it in the 80s, I still listen to it now. I don't dislike or like something because of the era it's from, but here, I still got this one sitting here, so I'll just say Purple Rain again, because it is my favorite album from the 80s, and I make no bones about that. It is a perfect freaking album. All right, an artist whose political stance has soured you. I guess I would be willing to bet that most people would say Ted Nugent, but for my opinion to have soured on Ted Nugent, I would have had to thought at some point in my life that he didn't suck. And I always thought he sucked. Always hated that guy. I will admit to liking the song Stranglehold, but I also know that Uncle Ted stole the song from his bandmates, took credit for it, doesn't even sing lead on it. Thank Derek St. Holmes every day that Ted Nugent has a career without paying properly as he should for the credits. Anyway, so no, he doesn't count in this one, even though he is an asshole. But I have to say somebody that treated me like family, and who was really good to me personally, and good to my niece and nephew when I took them to meet him because they were fans when they were young. And my opinion is not soured on his music, because I will always love the same music. I don't let what people do change my opinion of the art. But Charlie Daniels, in his last few years, he would rant and rave and go into some Trump Fuhrer nonsense bullshit. And it was sad to see him sell himself out emotionally, in my opinion, because the guy that sang Long-Haired Country Boy ain't the same man that he grew into, and the long-haired country boy was more open-minded and more Christian, in my opinion, than the Christian Charlie Daniels, I really believed he was following. But that's a different opinion, and that's getting more difficult. But Charlie was a good man to me, and I will never forget that. But I know a friend of mine worked with him right before Charlie died, and Michael Flynn had just gotten out of prison, and he came to a charity event that Charlie was hosting, and Charlie called him an American hero. The people stealing our republic. So, fuck the people that agree with that. And if you're one of the people watching this video and you agree with that, fuck you too. Hey. But, hey, we got music in common, right? So, we can get back to music now. You can trust me, you can not trust me. Doesn't matter. But, I've never been too subtle with my opinions. Anyway, let's see. Music from the 80s, blah, 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 blah. 14. Show a favorite record label. You mean like a record company, or do you mean like a record label? Like the thing that's physically on the record? I'm not going to deny bias here, but I'm going to say Bored Music Geek Records. Yes, I am effectively Bored Music Geek Records. We don't put out anything that I personally don't think is fantastic, or I wouldn't bother to release it and spend the money that it takes to put these things out when most of my money has gone to, pay for medical bills. What I have left, I make music with as well as I can, and I put it out. And I would ask any Music Geeks, check it out. This record, The Other Side of the Question, Divine and Divine, just put it out in December of 2024. It's the reviews are insane. If you've seen any of them, I can't believe I've released quite a few records in my time over the years, and I've never had this kind of amazing response, and I'm very proud of that. And check it out, psychedelic soul on this one, pretty heavy stuff, pretty intense, pretty trippy. But I think a lot of you music geeks will dig it. Look me up, chrismckay.bandcamp.com, and you can get all of the Bored Music Geek catalog there. But since I'm autistic, I also have to answer this way. You said favorite label, and I think of labels. And that record, that Camel label right there, Kiss, Casablanca, Camel label, will always, that's not an original, obviously, but that was my first album, which was Rock and Roll Over, and I will always, always just connect that specific variant of the Camel label on Casablanca with changing my mind, just opening black and white to color, Wizard of Oz moment with Rock and Roll Over. Now, where are we here? A run of 3 great singles. There's a lot you can go with there, but I'm going back to this. I'm going back to Prince and the Revolution, because just this album. The first single is When Doves Cry, one of the greatest pop singles of all time. The B-side was 17 Days. Fantastic. The second single was Let's Go Crazy. The B-side is Erotic City. Then Purple Rain with God on the B-side. And all of the B-sides were not on the albums. And then I Would Die For You with Another Lonely Christmas on the B-side. And then Take Me With You. For God's sakes, that's perfect freaking album. All right. A record store day purchase that you actually consistently listen to. Had to put some thought into this one too, but I'm not a huge Black Crowes fan. And the album that is my favorite Black Crowes album is the one that most people think is the worst Black Crowes album, and that's Lions, that came out in, I think, 2001. And it was a record store day release, and I was so glad to be able to finally get it on double vinyl. Great record. You can tell that they had been touring and playing with Jimmy Page, and I'm a huge Zeppelin fan. So hearing that influence so right there in their music lets you kind of know what they would have sounded like if Page had actually gone in the studio with them. And I think Lions by Black Crowes is the best of that. All right, now what else do we have here? We've got you can be reincarnated as any artist. Who do you choose? Well, I'm not going to lie to you. I would not want that. I would not want to be reincarnated as any artist, but if I had to choose one, I'm going to go back to David Bowie again, because he, on an artistic level, stagecraft-wise, he was commercial, he was non-commercial, he was an artist, he inspired people, he did so much, and was lucky to have survived the mid-70s, and he came back in so many ways, and he went out still making fantastic art. So that, to me, as a creative person or somebody who likes to think of themselves as creative, that's the best. That's the best you can do. Survive the stuff, keep going, and do it all. And he kind of did it all. All right. Best 3 lines in a song. Again, that's impossible to answer easily, but I'm going to go with the silence of a fallen star lights up a purple sky, and as I wonder where you are, I'm so lonesome I could cry. Is that 3 lines? It is the way I'm saying it is 3 lines. And I'm going to quote it from the Smithsonian Collection of Classic Country Music, which is huge. Is it 8 vinyl albums? Is it 43 vinyl albums? I don't know, but it's a monster, and it is a treasure trove of the best country music and the most influential country music from the turn of the century. The first recordings in early 1900s up until the mid 70s. So fantastic collection. Any music fan owes themselves this if you really want to understand how music developed, not just in country, but beyond. All right, an album you'll never get tired of. Well, it's a cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. And again, I don't make apologies for such things, but I'm going with The Dark Side of the Moon. And it's beautiful, matte, non-gloss cover, which ain't shining like crazy in the lights like every other one here that I'm showing you. It's my all-time favorite album. It's another perfect album. Purple Rain is number 2 to Dark Side is number 1. I've thought about it a lot. I've wondered what album could replace it. You know, when my mother died and I was trying to gauge myself and reconnect, I wanted some music that would help me, and the only thing I could think to do was put on Dark Side, and it got me through that day. So The Dark Side of the Moon is my choice for an album that I will never get tired of. Thanks for listening to my babbling. I hope it wasn't too anything. I hope it was just right in Goldilocks land. I don't know what I'm doing. Don't care to know what I'm doing. If you like it, great. If you don't, there's a gazillion other places you can be listening to other people babble about the same subjects. But I know through Bored Music Geek Radio that there are people that relate and like where we're going and what we're doing. And again, as a fellow music geek, I'm going to tell you, you have a radio sanctuary right now on Bored Music Geek Radio, and you really should check it out. Just check it out. Give it a half hour. Don't judge from a song or two. Give it a little bit of time, and you'll see that it goes everywhere. Unless it's a specialty show focus, but I mean, generally it goes everywhere, and even the specialty shows go everywhere. But thank you for listening. Thank you for the challenge for those who did. There was one last question. I almost missed. What's your favorite vinyl? I can't read that thing. My eyesight's bad. Vinyl jibber jabber talk podcast YouTuber thing, and I don't really do it very often because if I have a choice between listening to somebody talk about music or listening to music or making music, if I've got the strength, I'm going to be listening to music or making music, not listening to people talk about it. So that's just me, but I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you listened. I hope you got something out of it. And if you don't know these records, I strongly encourage you, check them out if you're a music geek. There's nothing there that I don't think stands up under these categories where they were positioned due to the questioning by whoever created these questions. But I don't do that, but I will say that right now my favorite that I have watched the most of the videos from is the one I felt inspired to do this from, and that is Side 4 Music Club. Check them out. If you want to subscribe here, do whatever you want, do it. I ain't stopping you, but I ain't begging for it, and I ain't crying for it, because what difference does it freaking make? If you wanna, you're in already, and if you're not, cool, no problem. But I do appreciate you being here. Hopefully we'll get to chat, and maybe one day we can do this in a 3-dimensional form. Until then, see you later.